Mark from Opal Quest. Today's video, I haven't done one for a while. I've got this little green rub that we've had for ages. It's just a little bit of a green directional play solid opal. It's got a little bit of sand in the top and I've got to cut that out. And I'm actually going to try and make a bit of an emerald shape stone out of it, and then we'll set it in some jewellery. So I might show you a bit of that process. Okay, so here we have our rub that I've had for a little while. It's definitely a directional stone. You can see the lights on it there. It's nice and bright when you get a play of colour in a certain direction, but it does wash out in other directions as well. So I'll just give a quick measure up, and it is roughly 25 long by 15mm wide and thickness 4.3. So we'll just do a quick measure of weight as well while we're at it. And what size to wake up. So it looks 13.8 carats. So it's not a bad size stone. Look, a lot of this is potch on the back bay. So it's got a very skinny colour bar on the front. And what the go is basically, I'm not sure if you can see it there, there's a little bit of sand. Well, I'll draw on it, the sand there, and there's a little bit of sand there as well. It's very skinny in this corner here as far as colour play, so I'm not too worried about that. So what I'll probably end up doing is I'm probably going to cut it across here. I can try and grind that sand out, but it's just going to wash out too much of this side because it is a skinny colour bar, this one. And we're going to set this in silver on our website, so it's not, won't put it in gold or anything. That'll keep the cost down of the setting, and it'll still be a nice stone. But what I'm going to do is cut this across here on the trim saw, and then I think what I'll do is, give me a sec. Okay, so what the plan is with this stone is to basically cut it into a shape that we normally don't do, and it's going to be like an emerald shape, which is basically a big rectangle, 45s on the corners. And then we'll set that in silver as a big pendant. And we may even get some earrings out of this piece yet, but I won't worry about that in this video. Just got a little print going on for my daughter while I'm doing the jewellery side. Okay, so to the trim saw. And what we'll do is we'll cut this little bit off the side here. Okay, so we've got our stone here we're about to cut. Got my wetsuit on, because this thing sprays water everywhere. Right. Okay, so it's a bit hard to see with the light shining up, but that's our cut stone. There's our little offcut. Alright, so here's our stone that we just cut, or sliced. It's got nice flashes of green, but it is directional, as we said. That's a little offcut. It's got a bit of sand in it, which we can get out. We might make some earrings or something out of that later. Okay, we're not interested at the moment. So what we're going to do is I'm going to make like an emerald shape out of this if I can, which is basically this rectangle with 45s on the corner. And that will go like that. And we'll just trace it out and then cut it on the cabbing machine. What I've just realised is this has been polished, this side, or the whole thing had been, and I just tried to get some of this sand out quickly to see what we're looking at. And you can scribble on this with a pencil, no worries at all, to stamp it out. As soon as you hit where it's been polished, it doesn't mark very well at all. So ditch the pencil and we'll go basically permanent texture, which won't hurt it. And we'll mark out our stone here, if I can get it to focus. So we basically lay that out where we want it like that. And then just simply trace around our shape. And when I cut that, I'll make that as big as I possibly can to the edges of the stone. So that's a very rough shape, but that's all I need to start. Okay, so what the plan is here, we're going to make this line here parallel with that line there, and the top and bottom parallel also. So we'll just use the wheel as evenly as we possibly can, so we use all of the wheels instead of wearing out part of the centre. We make our own machine, so I'm not too worried about wearing them out, but it is good practice to use the whole wheel instead of just grinding out the centre. So all we're doing here is just trying to get the lines parallel with each other. Got it on a 600 grip wheel. It's a little bit worn, this wheel, which is nice, not quite as aggressive as some of the other wheels we've got. So we're just trying to shape this now, slightly rolling over the face of the stone. Also tells us how much material of the colour bar we've got to play with as well. So we're just sort of sussing out a rough shape what we can make. Put little 45s in the corner. We're just slowly cutting it to shape as we go, like a rectangle. Now we'll start doing the 45s. Another 45 there. We're sort of just eyeballing it as we go at this stage. Got the guidelines on there that just exactly that, just a guide, and we're going to try and make the stone as big as we possibly can to save as many carats as we can, even though this is quite a skinny stone. So we try and make our stones as practical, cutting them as practical as we can, because you still need to be able to set them. If you have some weird shapes and that, they look pretty cool, but if you can't make them to fit in a setting, then it does make it very difficult. So just roll that little corner over a little bit more, which shows a bit more of the colour on the edge. Now we can see how much colour we've got to work with. So we're going to bezel set it, so we need to put a bit of a chamfer on the face of it, which means a bit of a 45 around the face. And we put a bit on the back as well, which means it sets in the setting better, like take the sharp edges off the back. So what we'll do now is just round the back off a little bit, just makes it sit in that setting a lot better. Doesn't put any pressure on the corners then, just sits nice and flat into the setting. And I will take a bit of the back of this stone off as well, because it is quite a fat stone, so we don't need all that on the back. I'll take that off later. So taking a little bit off the face there on the edges, which is for where the bezel comes around, where the the silver will be bent over the face of the stone. So ever so slightly put a little face on there so the setting fits nicely to the stone. And then we're just getting the face nice and even here now. Very light pressure, hardly touching anything off the stone at all, just removing even slightly, just taking that texture off. A little bit of a cab shine on there now, just so it reflects light a lot better on the face. So that's a rough shape, and then we can just see exactly what we're looking at now. Then we'll go through the other wheels down to like a flexi grit, flexi Nova wheel, and work our way through all the different grits, 1200, 3000, even up to 6000. Then we'll polish it with some cerium oxide. Getting there. Okay, so this is a finished cut stone now. It's basically a rectangle with 45s on the corner. And like I said, I'll make this into a bezel setting. So what we end up with was 17.3 long, 13.8 wide, and I took a bit off the back as well to make it a bit more practical setting, 4.2. So as far as carat weight goes, 9.1 carat. So yeah, anyway, that's a stone that I can actually set now. It's got a beautiful play of green in certain directions, so we'll get that in a setting now. I've had this for about 3 years. It's a very stable stone. I just really quickly knocked the top off it, see what the colour was like at the time, and made a quick rub out of it, but then thought I'm cutting some other stones at the moment of similar price range, so I thought I'll quickly do this as well. Okay, so we've got a little gem here, and now what we're doing is putting a bezel strip around it. So this is a bit of sterling silver that I've annealed, make it nice and soft just so we can wrap around. Put a little black dot with a texture on the gem, so I know that's actually going to be the top of the stone. I'll generally work out which has got a better play of colour, And once I've worked that out, I put a little mark on it, either there or the back, so I know that when I'm making a setting, that's how the stone has to fit in perfectly. So all we do now is basically we just make the bezel go around the stone. So it takes a little bit of time, and we put marks on it, and we can just slowly, this is quite a simple setting, this one, so we can actually just work out where our marks are and just slowly start bending and shaping around the stone. So that'll go around like that. It's a bit tricky to see. So we've got a little 45 in the corner there, and we'll just keep doing that all the way around the stone, and that will be our bezel, and I'll check that under a microscope as well to make sure we've got it very accurate. Alright, so we've got our basic shape made up for this stone, and what I'll do now is get some solder, and in this case it's one of our first solderings we're doing for this project, so it's going to be a hard solder, which means it's got a higher melting temperature than the mediums and easies and extra easy. So I'll use a couple on this piece. Just made up some little tabs, solder tabs, which we then melt. So I've already got flux on this. I'm just trying to juggle a camera and a few things, so this may not end well, but we shall see. So, well, bumped it already. So I've got my gas torch. There it is. Let's crank this up a bit. So we've got our torch here now, and we'll just have a flame about that big. Add a bit of oxygen to it, so I'll get a nice little blue naked flame. And like I said, I've already got flux and everything already on this particular piece. Just see if I can adjust the lighting up a bit so I can see what's going on. That might be better. So what we do is we just gently heat the piece we're doing. Heat up the sterling silver. Just a nice gentle heat all round at the moment. And what that does is you can see the flux is starting to bubble down the bottom there, and that'll give the flux time to actually clean the joint. If you go too fast, too much heat too fast, it doesn't really clean the joint very well. So then you get to the point where the solder is going to melt, and it just flows into the joint like that. And I'm not overly happy with that, so I'll move that over a little bit. That's better. Turn the gas off, and then we'll whack this in the pickle. Right, so while that's in the pickle, we're multitasking here. That's a little print we did for my daughter, a little mini yoga or whatever it is, Yoda. So we've got a few supports here we'll take off. Anyway, I won't bore you with that. Rightio, once I've got a bezel set around our stone, the next step is to cut a little backing plate up, and we'll solder this bezel onto the back. Right, I'll just cut a piece of nice bit of freshly rolled sterling silver. Right, before we solder the backing plate on, you want to make sure that the bezel fits perfectly onto the stone. If it's tight, or you can pick it up with it, it's a real pain when you go to bezel it later. So just make sure it drops on perfectly like that. Okay, so now we're here back doing the backing plate onto our bezel. Got a nice little blue flame, nice little neutral flame. So same thing again, we've got our solder tabs in there. These are medium tabs, so they melt a bit quicker than the hard tabs. So they'll jump around a little bit, so you just gently heat the bottom of the plate up. Nice even heat. Nice and easy too. You don't want to melt the flux really fast because it won't have time to do its job. You'll see that just a gentle heat, and you'll see the flux starting to clean the silver. And you can move these around a little bit, these tabs, if they're coming too far away from the joint. So the flux is doing its job now. You can see it's cleaned it up nicely. It'll have a slightest little green tinge just before it melts. So we'll just keep heating it, and the solder will then flow around the joint, around the bezel and the back. So you can see they're just starting to go now. So just nice even heat all around, and let it flow around all the little corners. And that is plenty. Turn the gas off, and we'll put that in the pickle. Right, while that piece is in the pickle, I'll start making a bail. I'll just sketch out a rough shape. I'm just going to make a simple silver bail. I might put a split in the top of this. So a little triangle there. I need enough meat for the chain to go through. And same again on the other side, so I'll do another little triangle that way. Get our cutters. It's a bit tricky doing all this under camera. So I'll just anneal that quickly and then I'll start shaping that into what we want to do. Actually, I might cut it now, probably won't make much difference. I'll just do half of it so you can see what I'm talking about. So we'll do half like that, and we'll shape this properly in a minute. So what we'll do is we'll do two ends like this, and when that turns around it'll be a bail, and we'll cut the middle. It'll make sense once I do a bit. Right, so we've got a bail here and we've sanded one side of it, basically enough to make the bail shape. All I do then is just basically get these ring pliers and just bend that around however you want. You can anneal this to make it a lot softer if you like. Sometimes I want a bit of strength in it though, for when I'm about to cut it with a little micro saw soon. So there's our basic bail shape. Okay, so once we've cut that out with a little saw, now it's time to file, sand that and polish it, and that'll be our little basically our bail. Okay, so there's our little polished bail, that's all finished. So now we'll take that piece out of the pickle and we'll carry on with that. Okay, so here's our piece that we've just pulled out of the pickle that we've just soldered. I've just stuck it under a microscope and had a really good look at all the solder joints. They're all good. You just want to make sure there's no little porous holes or pinholes or anything like that. Any impurities that have gotten into the join, because that can cause problems later with structure, as well as trying to polish it later if you've got any little bad welds basically. So anyway, that is spot on. It's got a nice little curve inside and out. That's very strong. So we'll now trim off this excess backing plate, and we'll get that sanded down flush with the bezel, and that's the next step. So I'll get on with that. Alright, so I've just trimmed the excess backing plate off now, close as I'm game to go to the bezel, because we don't want to damage this. And now what we'll do, we'll sand this down, this excess plate flush with the edge of the bezel. So we'll just go through multiple sandpaper grits, starting off at 280 and we end up at like 2000, to get that nice and smooth, and then we can weld a jump ring on the end. Alright, so we've sanded with some coarse sandpaper all the way around the edge of that, right up to the bezel, and now we'll just go down the sandpaper sizes to finer and finer until we get that all nice and polished and smooth. Okay, so we've gone through all of the sanding grits now, and that's ready to now solder on a jump ring, and then we can start polishing it up properly. First thing I've got to do is cut this bezel height down to the exact height of the stone. I can do that before or after the jump ring, so I'll decide on that in a minute, but we'll get this cut down to where we need it. Just tacked on now and ready to solder properly. Time to solder this jump ring in place. So same thing again. Oh, bumping everything here. Put the camera in the road. So what we're doing is we're just gently heating up the solder, which is now fallen off the bottom. Don't you hate that? I've got a camera right in the road, so I'm working around it. There we go. Right, so I've got a little solder tab. Hopefully that's still focused. I'll try again. Right, so we've got the solder tab, easy solder this time, on the jump ring just sitting there where the joint is, and we just want to heat up the backing plate underneath, and you can see it just flowed then, and it's joined the jump ring together at the same time. Alright, once we've got to this stage, we've soldered on our jump ring, checked it under a microscope, made sure that's okay. That'll need a polish up soon. Anyway, then we get our opal, whack it in our setting, like so, and as you can see, these bezel heights are a little bit higher. Always make them high in case anything on the edge gets damaged while we're making them. So what I can do now is cut this bezel down to suit the stone, and we're going to bend that over the face of the stone. So you don't want tons of material bent over, because you can actually stress out the opal or the gem, whatever you're setting. You can actually put too much pressure on it if you're not careful. So I like to make them just shy of the stone, so when we've got enough material to hold the stone in place. So all I do is sort of look at it through the top and sort of guesstimate on the side where it's got to be, around quite a few points. And what that actually does is eventually gives you a bit of a line of where you need to cut to. So we sort of do that, and that'll give us a bit of an idea. And then when you look on the side, you can see all those lines there, and it's just a matter of joining them up. And always go a little bit higher than I need to, and I can always take more material off. So those little dots that we made are a bit of a guide, so then we know how much to shave off that bezel. Righto, so once we've cut this down to where we want it, you can see now that the gem sits in there perfectly now. We've got plenty of room to bezel over that without having excess amount over. So now that that's done, what we can do is basically we'll polish this up now properly, and I'll put a slight edge on this as well, like we'll thin this bezel edge down a tiny bit, just makes a neater setting later, and then we'll solder the jump ring onto there. Right, once it's been polished, we then stamp it with our logo, which is OQ for Opal Quest, and this is sterling silver, so it's 925. Okay, back to the microscopic welder again. So this is our little finished bail, and we'll just clip that on there, and then we'll weld the ends together. Right, that's welded them together, nice little ball on the end, so that can't come apart. Okay, so that's pretty much the setting made, and we've got the bail on there, jump ring, and now we've just got to set our stone. So that'll sit in there like that, and now we just need to bezel over the setting onto the stone, and then she's set. Okay, so I like to get a piece of thermo lock, which I've heated up quickly. What I tend to do with this, it's just great stuff to hold things while you're trying to set bezels and stuff. So what I like to do with this, I'll shove it in my vise here, and then I'll just bump in everything here, clamp that up a tiny bit just to hold the bottom section in. Still not set yet. So it's nice and pliable, and then we get our setting. Also like to make a big gap one end, so then the bail doesn't get stuck. It's really hard to get out sometimes otherwise. So I just want that bail to hang over the edge there. Don't really need that to do anything. I usually get my burnishing tool, find it. Oop, bumping everything. Love working with cameras. Right, so what I do is then I just move the thermalock just around the edge of the bezel, so I've got enough room to still bezel with it, but just make sure it's going to lock in while it's nice and pliable, so it doesn't really go anywhere, like that. Tighten this up a bit more. I'll just pull this down around so it locks in and gives myself plenty of room. I'll just tighten this up a little bit more while it's starting to harden. And that pretty much gives me an area that I can now work on when I'm setting the stone. You don't have to use this. I used to use without that, but it's a fantastic tool now. So you just put your stone in there, and then you can just bezel around the edges and it won't move. So we'll just let that set, and then we'll put our stone in and we'll start bezeling it over. Okay, so once we've got our stone set in our setting, we just need to bezel over the edges of the silver over the stone to stop it falling out. I've got a camera right in my road here, so I don't know how I'm going to go doing this, but basically what we do is just get a burnishing tool, and we just slowly and very carefully start stretching the silver over the stone. And I just do this by hand until I get it to a point where I'm happy with where the stone's sitting and everything, and then I'll use my little rotary hammer on a Fordham to finish it off, but I'll just go slow by hand first and have a bit of a look at what's going on. I might have to shift this camera, I think, because I can't really see what I'm doing. Slowly getting there. So all we're doing is basically folding the silver over the little lip that we've made on the stone, and that's why you need to make a little 45 on the edge of the face of the stone, so this actual silver has got a place to fold over to. Otherwise your stone will just fall out or rattle. Slowly work our way around, little bits at a time. And these are a bit tricky because they've got a 45 corner. Cabochons and oval shapes and rounds and that are a lot easier than this. But we're getting there. So what I might do now is get the little rotary hammer tool I've got and just finish that off. Alright, so I'm not sure how we're going to go with this because I've sort of got the camera in my road. This is a little Fordham tool, a rotary hammer, and as you fire it up, it's just basically got a pneumatic hammer that goes back and forth. And this is a great tool for burnishing over the silver. So let me unplug a few things here. Alright, I've got cords everywhere here. So, excuse the camera action here, but we'll just give you a little demo, and I might have to stop and do it properly, I think. Alright, I'll see if I can do this. Okay, so what we're doing is gently hammering around the edge of the silver and basically burnishing it over the stone. And we just work our way around the stone. And you see why this little vise does make life a lot easier. I'm just going to leave it at that for a second, so that will give you an idea. So all we're doing is folding the silver over the top of the stone there. So you can see it's a directional stone. Got a few flashes here and there. Right, so I'm going to finish this off, take my time and do that, and then I'll show the end result, and that's pretty much it, finished. Alright, well that is pretty much it. I've finished bezeling that over, giving it a really light polish around there, so now we've got to get it out, take a little hole under there to try and loosen it up a bit, and hopefully we can get this out. Sometimes you dig under it a bit here without scratching it. There we go. Alright, so I'll just give that a hand polish now, and that is pretty much it. I'll get that out of the road. Get another cloth in a minute. This just gets fingerprints, everything off. Any tiny little scratches that we may have missed. I'll give that a proper clean up in a sec, but you get the general idea. So that is pretty much that setting. Okay, well that's pretty much done. It is definitely a directional stone that I've got it sitting up like that. You can see the most amount of flash on it. Yeah, they come up not too bad. Thanks for watching, everyone. You know the drill, hit the subscribe if you could. If you want to check out my other channel, Coast to Country, that's got a bit more fishing and farming stuff on there. It'd be great if you wanted to have a look at that, that'd be good too. All right, I'll get this online shortly, and yeah, see you on the next one. Thanks for watching. Cheers, bye.